Join me today as we talk about Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 3. It's the Geek Ball channel. My name is Bobby, and today we're going to be talking about the third episode of Star Wars The Acolyte. Let me start by saying that I think the things that we were told were going to absolutely destroy all faith in Star Wars are also in Episode 4 and not all in Episode 3. Because, well, maybe I've already lost faith because this didn't quite shatter it. So, I'm going to say that Episode 3 isn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. So there's that. Squid Game guy is still the highlight of the show, and he's only in it for like 2 minutes. What? So I'm not talking to myself. There's someone else here in the car. Although, the other is equally likely on some days. But, yeah, so basically this whole episode is the flashback episode to what we've been told happened between May and Osha and the coven of Force witches, I guess. And, yeah. So, if you've seen some other reviews at this point, I've been seeing some things that I think people are understandably not being charitable to what happened in the show. The main point of contention I keep seeing is people saying, "Oh, it redefines the Force." No, it doesn't. You have to understand that these witches, which is a terrible term because it makes you think of the witches of Dathomir, who are to a person evil, and these women don't seem to be overtly evil. There's got some sketchy motivations on some things, but you know. So I think it's a terrible name, unless they're actually going back to the old EU canon, where on Dathomir there were different groups of witches, and only one of them were evil. But that kind of nuance left Star Wars a long time ago, so probably not. So they view the Force as, instead of an energy field that surrounds and binds all living things, or however Yoda put it. It's been a while since I watched Empire. And they say it's a thread that connects things. Well, first of all, that's not exactly a tremendously different description. Let's all be really honest here. Now, the application in the show, where in the first half of the show, the woman's like, "Oh, it's a thread that ties everything together and binds us." In the second half, "You make your own fate." Which is it? So anyway, so them calling it a thread, that's not a problem. I mean, they're a different group of Force users, so they have a different dogma, different ideals, different interpretations. I mean, the Jedi and the Sith have both existed for thousands of years, both pretty clearly practitioners of the Force and know a lot about it, and both have wildly different ideas about it. So why wouldn't a third group have different ideals as well? So that part, that doesn't bother me. That was actually kind of interesting to see another group's outlook on things. And of course the point where they're like, "Oh yeah, and then there's the Jedi and their views on the Force, and oh, the all-knowing Jedi didn't know this." And it's like, lady, there's like 20 of you. The Jedi are a galaxy-spanning organization. Don't get too uppity. So, yeah. Then there was the whole, hey, so the twins don't have a dad. They appear to have two moms. And as in, there doesn't appear to be a biological dad. Now there's precedence with Anakin here. Except it seems to heavily imply that the lady who's the head of this coven somehow used the Force to create the two girls, and then the woman who I think is a Zabrak carried them. And she's getting a little like, hey, you're raising the kids kind of dumb here. Like, discipline's a thing, and they're going to need it because one of the two is a psychopath. So, maybe you should step in here, lady. And the other lady who just created them and didn't carry them, but is clearly like their genetic progenitor, because since they're not Zabraks or white, so she's just like, no, I've got it. Back off. And it's like, I think the other lady kind of earned the right to say something here, maybe. Just a thing. Plus, she should headbutt you with those horns and knock some fucking sense into you. But anyway, although that's like the only sensible thing she says, so maybe not. The lady who's in charge of the coven actually seemed to be kind of rational about most things. Whenever the Jedi showed up and were like, oh, you can't train these kids and other things outside of the way we teach the Force. Which, that seemed a little shifty to me, but because as the one lady pointed out, they're not in the Republic. It's a non-Republic world, so the Jedi should not have any authority there. So yet again, I think we're going with the Jedi are incompetent is the overall picture here we're going for. So they're like, well, but they should be tested anyway, and May wants to be a Jedi. She doesn't want, or not May, Osha wants to be a Jedi. And May's like, no, we need to join the Force cult over here that we're all part of already. And Osha's like, no, I don't think so. I want to be a Jedi instead. But they're twins, and May's a psycho, so, if it's twinsies for life. And, well, I'll get to that here in a minute. So they go to be tested. May intentionally lies because the test is what you saw in the Phantom Menace, where one of them's holding up a view screen, it's got something on it, they're seeing if the other person can read it. And then Osha's doing it, and holds Squid Game, intentionally, tells her one of them is right. And she's like, but no, that wasn't a mountain. And she realizes too late that she gave away that she's supposed to be lying. He realized what was happening, so he said she got one right that she didn't. And he's all like, so did someone tell you to lie to fail this test? She's like, yeah, they kind of did. So then her mom's going to let her go and leave and become, go join the Jedi. She's reasonable about everything. She's like, no, she wants to go do it, let her go do it. Unfortunately, her twin sister is like, no, I'm going to lock her in a room, set her journal on fire, which somehow ignites a building made of stone, steel, and concrete, with no wood to be found anywhere that I could see. And the whole damn place goes up like it's made of kindling. And yeah, yet again, this is now 2 out of 3 episodes of this show where people clearly don't understand how fire works. At all. So, yeah. And I guess the fire burned all the witches and killed them, because, they go into the room and they're all dead, but they don't know, either they died from the fire, or the Jedi killed them without using their lightsabers because there's no obvious marks on them. I'm sure we're going to find out later the Jedi killed them all somehow in an act of stupidity and evil, but probably Squid Game himself. But that'll be the final twist of the show. The most interesting character is going to end up being a bad guy. So yeah. So then Osha's like, May, what'd you do? And May's like, what'd you do? And it's like, well, no, May, you set fire to the building. You're the one that should be questioned here because you're acting like a complete utter psychopath. And yeah, then it looks like she dies. Squid Game saves Osha, and then they leave. And yeah, that's the flashback. Carrie Ann Moss was also completely wasted in this episode too. I have no idea why the guy that was meditating took the poison, because he didn't do anything. In fact, they tranced him instead. And, yeah, the Wookiee is just kind of there. I mean, I don't know what the Jedi are feeling bad for here, unless there was something else that happened that we didn't see, which is what I'm sure is going to end up being the case. Although I shouldn't say that. That's giving these people way too much credit on the creative front. But, yeah. So, now we know what happened. We know that May is a psychopath. That's why she's on the dark side. I'm halfway betting that we're probably going to find out that their mother used the Force to create them, but like there's some kind of like drawback, like one of them is all evil and one of them is all good, and like they just didn't know that in time until like the evil one's like, well, I'm gonna burn her diary and kill everybody, she's, if we can't be twinsies, no one can be anything. So yeah, it's not good, folks. It's not as terrible as everyone makes it sound, but it's not good either. So supposedly we're going to see an actual like personification of the Force here in one of these episodes, as like an actual like physical being. And yeah, I can't wait to see that. So yeah. So yeah, like I say, we didn't learn a whole lot. Like we were already told May started the fire. I was really hoping that was like maybe a metaphor or something. Not like the song "We Didn't Start the Fire," but something like that maybe. Like I was hoping there was something more to it, and not just grabs a lamp off the wall, which for some reason is a burning fuel lamp and not a globe of light like every other light in Star Wars, and sets fire to a book that's about this big and it's triangular and about that thick, and that's enough fuel to set a concrete floor and wall on fire and burn down a whole damn building, kill a bunch of people. And yeah, that whole like, yeah, we're twins, we're gonna do everything together, and it's like, except when you don't want to, then I'm gonna kill you. It's like, yeah, kid, the discipline would have done you some wonders there, or you're just a psychopath, either way. But yeah, so see you next week for episode 4, I guess. Here's hoping. I rewatched the first 2 episodes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Maybe I missed something here. I'll rewatch it eventually. So, maybe I'll just rewatch Squid Games instead. I'm serious. The guy from Squid Games deserves way better than this. He learned English just for this role. And like, that's more dedication than anyone else in this cast or crew has. Like, one of the cast members in 2 separate interviews said that Anakin Skywalker blew up the Death Star. And in one of those 2, his castmate is sitting there and literally tells him, you should just shut up now. So at least they've seen the damn movies. Anyway, that's all I got. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff to YouTube. You know how it goes. But just remember, the Force will be with you always.